Hello and welcome to Turn Off, Turn On Ventures. Today I'm with Max from Kitekraft here in Munich. Max, maybe you can start with a quick introduction about what Kitekraft does.
Sure. Hi everybody, Max Isensee. I'm one of the co-founders of Kitekraft. And at Kitekraft we build flying wind turbines. As crazy as that sounds, it's a mixture of a drone / kite that is tethered to a ground station. And we can use it to make the same thing a conventional wind turbine does, but with 10 times less material and eventually for half the cost of what conventional wind turbines can do. That's what we do.
Amazing. And in developing a flying wind turbine, maybe give the listeners a bit of a background on how does energy get generated through a flying wind turbine?
Yeah, maybe I just start where a conventional wind turbine is right now. So we all know it, right? So you have a big tower and then you have a 3-bladed wind turbine that's just turning and catching a lot of wind. So that's done what's conventionally in the conventional way. But if we look at it from a very technical point of view, the part that generates the most energy or contributes the most to the energy generation is actually the wing tips of the blades, because they capture the most area and contribute the most energy to it. But if you look at it that way, the whole tower and these huge blades are kind of just a means to an end to capture these really efficient and large areas of wind. And we basically get rid of all of that and replace it with a small kite that you could think of as just the blade tip of a conventional wind turbine, put a tether on it, so have a much lighter system, much smaller system, and by that then have the system where we have this wing that we can use to capture the wind energy, transfer it into motion energy in this what we call a figure-8 flight. And then on this kite, we have the small rotors that then produce the energy. The concept here, again, is the same thing as with big wind turbines, but those small wind turbines then see much higher wind speeds than your conventional wind turbine does, because we don't use the ambient wind speed, but actually the flight speed of the system to produce the energy.
I see. Who are certain, users of Kitekraft's kite?
Yeah. So it depends on the system size. So the first product that we're aiming for is 100 kilowatts. So compared to conventional wind turbines today, that's quite small. Those typically come at 3 to 5 megawatts today onshore. And what we do with these small ones is target applications where conventional wind turbines today are just not used because they're not economically viable. This has to do with that with even our small systems, it's quite a small investment, and we get still into higher altitudes where winds are generally better. And if you would do that with a conventional wind turbine at that scale, it would just be too expensive to do that. So we're starting with more niche applications. So this could be powering a farm, for example. A farmer already has the land, so we can power the farm operations. It could be a small industry site in a more rural area or a small village, something like that. So for the initial ones, we're looking closer to home, so Germany, Europe. Then scaling up the system to 500 kilowatts. So still a little below the size where conventional wind is today. But with those, we can then target what's called microgrids. So these are small local energy networks that can or cannot be connected to the main grid. Typically, you find them in places where you do not have such a well built out grid as you have here in Germany or Europe, for example. So either you don't have a grid connection at all, or what's called a weak grid. So you have a lot of power outages. So again, the same type of customers here. Farmers, industry sites, villages, care for their own power production and then set up an own system. But here we're not targeting the projects directly, but are working with the middleman basically. So we're working with targeting the microgrid developers. So as you have big renewable developers, for example, you also have these dedicated microgrid developers. And we basically offer them a wind power solution in their toolbox, let's say, for how do I power a microgrid, which typically today is mostly done by diesel generation actually. So quite an expensive and polluting way of doing it. Solar is getting bigger in that, and batteries to some extent. But wind power is actually not a viable solution again for the cost and in some parts the logistical aspects of it. It's just not an option. So for this, we're actually enabling using wind power for the first time. And the step after that is then building systems in the megawatt range, where we then have comparable energy production as a conventional wind turbine does have today, and then feed it into the grid. So in these for these types of systems of that size, the typical customer would be utilities, big renewable developers that you can also find today.
And you mentioned there's a significant cost savings in your system versus a traditional kind of power-based nacelle system. Where do the cost savings come from?
So a big contributor is just the saving of material. As I said, we use 1/10 of the material a conventional wind turbine of the same size would use. And with that, obviously there's a lot saving just by that. But it goes beyond that, because we actually, by having a much smaller and lighter turbine, we make the whole process of from start to building a wind turbine to actually implementing it and using it, maintaining it, make all that simpler in a way, because you don't need that much or that of a large factory, for example. The logistics are easier because of the size. You can set it up all on ground, right? Our system sits on the ground and only starts to fly when we're producing energy. So everything can be assembled quite easily on ground level. Same goes for the maintenance, for example. You don't need specialized crews that are taught to actually work in these altitudes where conventional wind turbines are. So all that makes it cheaper in the end.
Great. Max, you've been running this company for some time now?
Yeah, we founded 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
So about three years now.
Yeah, actually, I think 2 weeks back we had our company anniversary.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
What? Maybe you could share some of the challenging times that you've gone through as a founder.
Yeah.
What were those times?
I think one of the main things is founding a hardware company is a lot more challenging than if it's just software. I don't want to disparage software. We still need that, but hardware comes with its own challenges. Just the development cycles that you go through are not that easy. We can't just push some code and then see whether it works or not and then work on it again. Sometimes these cycles just takes us some weeks to actually do the tests right, get the learnings from that, then maybe improve the system, build out a new part or something. So this just takes longer. There's a lot that is helping now that allows for more rapid prototyping. So 3D printing parts, which can be done quite quickly. We can do a lot with software already. But there's just some parts that we can't get out of or away from. So we still build some part of it as a physical product, and that is a challenge. And then besides that, it's challenging times. We went through the Corona crisis, right? So that also hit us as a startup in some way, made stuff more challenging. And then the let's say global logistics situation did not make some things easier for us as well, because we also had parts that we need to have shipped that were not readily available at some times, or just took way longer for us to get them. So far we're going through it.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. I think many of the other hardware companies also faced very similar problems in the past 2 years.
Yeah.
So, it is a challenge.
Have to be persistent. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, to close it off, I think it's not an easy path to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What's some practical advice you might have for another entrepreneur who's trying to build a business in this space?
Yeah. We had persistence coming up, so I think you have to be that. You have to build some resiliency. to cope with these tougher times. That's definitely something. I mean, founding a company is not it's not an easy task. The odds are stacked against you, so you have to be aware of that, what you're kind of getting into. I think that's important. But then also enjoy the journey in a way. I mean, you will have tough times, but you'll also have like big milestones to celebrate and achievements that you made. And I'd say be also conscious about that. It's easy to focus on the negative things because there's so much that can go wrong and will go wrong. But yeah, cherish the good ones as well, and enjoy the journey in to some extent. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much, Max. Thank you for having me in your plant.
Yeah, happy to have you.
Yeah, I really
Anytime.
enjoyed it. Cool. Thank you, everyone.